Ok, grabando, recording, grabando. Buenos días, ¿cómo están? ¿Cómo
Buenos
están
días.
todos? How's
Bien,
everybody?
Bien,
Bien,
gracias.
bien.
Bien,
bien,
Bien.
excelente, excelente. Bueno, me alegro mucho. I'm very happy. Es la segunda clase, hoy es la segunda clase, ¿sí? La clase número 2. A ver, y bueno, we are going to take a look at a lot of different things. And again, for those of you who are brand new, this is a reference only. We're not going to step in perfect sequence with this at all because of the nature of this only being 7 classes in the session. And what I want to do for you guys, again, for people who are new and for people who are old, is we're taking a slightly different, but can be very effective approach, which is looking at chunks of words, okay? Chunks of words. And uh, looking at learning Spanish phrases that will help you as a traveler. Okay, so uh, we won't necessarily translate every word, but we want to give you some chunks, some words you can learn and memorize in groups that will help you in the traveling process. So, thematically, this is going to be a more thematic kind of course. Last week we covered a lot of pronunciation and just greetings. Uh, this this week, hoy, se
Hoy.
dice en español hoy, today. Uh, our emphasis today so that you know where we're going, kind of a general track. I will take any questions you have on pronunciation because we always try to clean up anything from last week. Uh, I will give you as homework a little tutorial on how to trill an R, do the Spanish R. It is not in the pronunciation process a game change. Well, it is a game changer in that it helps you be understood. But if you can't trill an R or you find that it takes you a long time to learn to trill or roll an R, uh, it doesn't mean people won't understand you. Okay. It takes a while. That is a process. But I will give you for homework, I'm not going to spend time on class on it right now, a way to learn to trill your R's. Okay. Bien. Um, the thing that is a deal breaker is knowing those vowels. A, E, O, U. That's why we spent so much time on those. Okay. So we'll take a couple questions in just a bit on pronunciation if you have those questions. But the roadmap for today is going to be, we're going to hit pretty heavy on phrases related to travel in terms of uh, airline and transport. Okay. Uh, el aeropuerto, airport. El transporte, transport. We're going to see some videos on that. And I will give you the links to watch those videos again later because probably as a homework kind of thing, you want to rewatch those videos later. So, transporte, transport, the travel process, which is your first step in going to a different country if you are a traveler. We're also going to hit real hard on numbers because numbers are involved with transportation and travel constantly, all the time. Los números, numbers. So we're going to hit on that. Do know, again, with numbers, you're going to need to listen a lot. When we learn words by chunks, even if you learned by a traditional textbook, not by chunks, grouping words together in phrases, the only way to really get comfortable is to have input. That means listening to a lot of videos a little bit every single day, repeating that to get the repetition in. Just as little babies growing into toddlers learn language, it's the same thing. They are listening, listening, listening. So if you feel like it's, wow, it's kind of a tough work listening and comprehending, know that that is the first skill. It is listening and understanding on a certain level is more important than being able to speak perfectly, because speaking is not the first skill that your brain is equipped to do. Listening is the first skill your brain must master. So we're going to do a lot of input, a ton of listening. Transport, numbers, transportation, a lot of vocabulary with airports and transportation. We're also going to hit on question words, okay, and directions. You're going to have a really interesting video today on directions. And I guarantee, because when you are traveling and getting to a place, you've always got to ask where stuff is, yeah? And this little shorty video is going to be super helpful with that. Okay, vale. Preguntas de pronunciación. Any questions you've got on pronunciation before we get into the new stuff? Those vowels, A, E, I, O, U. And remember, very few silent letters in Spanish. Okay. H, we don't pronounce the H. We don't pronounce unless it's a CH combination. And once in a while, the U doesn't get pronounced, but every other letter, you will pronounce all letters. Okay. Bien?
Yeah.
¿Alguna pregunta? No, no question on pronunciation? Okay. Vale. Let's go. I will be giving you also sending in the email after class lots of files that have all these lists. So don't feel you must furiously copy down words, because you're going to get the list in a computer file after class. Okay. Your job right now is going to be a sponge and absorb. Vale, bueno. Vamos a empezar. We're going to start with our numbers, because this will give us numbers get incorporated into when you ask about prices for stuff like cab fare, prices for tickets, flight numbers, gate numbers at the airport. Numbers are survival. It's survival terminology. It just is. So you're going to get a quick rundown on numbers, because you're going to hear some numbers throughout all of our other videos today. So we're going to start with the numbers, because those are small units rather than long phrases that we have to hang together. Okay, los números. Some numbers, and I encourage you, when you're learning new numbers, when you're listening to numbers, you're not going to know all these numbers perfectly from hearing this the first time. But know that sometimes we can associate words you already know in English with the new words in Spanish. And that happens a lot with numbers, because it's that whole thing of there are a whole bunch of things in Latin that come into English, and that helps. Uy, momento. Got to take that off a second. Otra vez. Let's try this one more time. Una vez más. Ok. Vale. Bien. Pueden ver la mujer. Can you see the woman?
Yes.
Pueden
Sí.
ver la mujer. La mujer. Ok. Ella va a enseñar los números, numbers. Vale, bueno.
¿Están? Bienvenidos. Welcome to Spring Spanish. Yo soy María Fernanda, and I am one of the Spring Spanish teachers that is going to be here with you in this video series. In this video, I'm going to teach you los números. Yeah, that's right. It doesn't matter if it's for una fecha, a date, or edad, age, or what about dinero, money, or un número telefónico, a telephone number. This is when they become really useful. And now we're going to learn how to say los números en español. ¿Estás listo? Are you ready? Let's begin. Comencemos.
And you'll get the link to this so you can watch it again. You will need to watch this more than once.
Okay guys, when I travel, I really like to know the basics, how to reply or how to answer to a question. If you want to use the numbers, then they become really helpful for the next questions if you are abroad, for example. ¿Cuánto cuesta?
Here's one of our question words we're going to focus on today. ¿Cuánto? ¿Cuánto? How much? And notice how we pronounce this. Every letter in cuánto is pronounced. ¿Cuánto? ¿Cuánto? Repitan, por favor. ¿Cuánto?
¿Cuánto?
¿Cuánto? ¿Cuánto?
¿Cuánto?
How much?
¿Cuánto?
¿Cuánto? If we put an S on the end and make it into from cuánto into cuántos, with an S on the end, it becomes how many. How many? Like if you want to buy apples, you want to buy anything, yeah? You want to know how many dollars, whatever, how many pesos, you see? Pero, ¿cuánto? How much? And here's one of our chunks we're going to learn later on, but we're going to learn the numbers before we get too much. ¿Cuánto cuesta? Cuesta. Sí, repitan, por favor. Cuesta.
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 Cuesta means it costs. I want you to notice something. When you're learning chunks, it's good for you to know we can't translate word for word for word because sometimes in Spanish, where they use one word, we might use two or three in English, or vice versa. Sometimes the word order, the order in which we use words to form a question or formulate an answer, the word order might be different. So here's what I want you to notice. ¿Cuánto means how much. That's a word you can sometimes use just by itself. So let's say you have a brain fart. You can't remember. You can remember that lead-in word, cuánto, but you can't remember the second one. Please know, sometimes a fragment as a question may be workable as a traveler, okay? Yeah? Just like in English, if somebody looks at you and says, how much, instead of how much does it cost, do you know what they're asking you with just the how much word?
Mm-hmm.
Probably you do. Okay, so that's our cue. So sometimes you can work with words as fragments, but the whole question is ¿cuánto cuesta? ¿Cuánto cuesta?
¿Cuánto cuesta?
What you should know is that in English, we would have to say it costs. How much, two words, that word alone in Spanish is cuánto. Does it cost? Does it cost? All that stuff is wrapped up into the one word cuesta. ¿Cuánto cuesta? Cuesta by itself is a verb. It's an action word. It means it costs. Something, an item, a ticket, a piece of food, whatever it is that you're buying. ¿Cuánto cuesta? Okay, a los números, straight to numbers.
How much is it? O ¿cuántos años tienes? How old are you? Or ¿cuál es tu número telefónico? What's your phone number? In this case, you must know the numbers. And I'm going to teach you now from 0 to 20, where for me, they're most the tricky ones because you have to learn as they are. However, after 21, life becomes really, really simple. Entonces, ¿estás listo? So are you ready? Repite después de mí. Repeat after me. Uno. Dos.
Dos. We know the English word a duo is a combination of this many people, yeah, or this many products. Okay, so dos.
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 Tres.
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 Tres. There you get a little.
Cuatro.
Pardon. The next two words actually have you hear an example of a simple single trill. Re, re, re. An R when it's by itself. Yeah. Doesn't have a strong trill. Re. It's got a little trill. Yeah. Tres. Tres.
Tres.
Okay. And the next one is a letter for four. We know the word quartet. Yeah, quartet is four people who play an instrument. Cuatro. Cuatro.
Cuatro.
Cuatro. We're going to really focus on that 1 through 20. Those are the building blocks. And really the essential building blocks is the 1 through 10. Because higher numbers repeat the 1 through 10 numbers. Okay? They tag on to the end, the 1 through 10 numbers. Those are the real base is that 1 through 10. Okay? Cuatro.
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 Cinco.
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 And you'll notice C-I next to each other, that makes a S sound. Cinco.
Cinco.
Cinco. Cinco.
Cinco.
Bien. Seis.
Seis.
We pronounce all those letters. Seis. Seis.
Seis.
Seis. Seis.
Seis. Seis.
Seis.
Siete.
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 Siete. Siete. ¿Sí? Siete. Okay. Siete. Seven.
Ocho.
Ocho. Ocho. Think octopus. The octopus, 8 legs, comes from the same thing. Ocho. Ocho.
Ocho.
Ocho.
Nueve.
Nueve.
Nueve. Now there we've got two vowels together. Again, a lot of these have two vowels together, right? Seis was e, seis. Okay. Siete was I, siete. There is no rule I before E except after C. That's an English thing. That does not exist as a concept in Spanish. Vowels can be combined in different ways, okay? So here's our 9 word, nueve.
Nueve.
Nueve. Nueve. This number is very important. I want you to notice. This is why pronunciation is a thing. The word nueve, getting the vowels right is key. Nueve is 9. The concept of 9. Nueve. You should end nueve with a smile. Nueve. If you change that E at the end of nueve into the letter O, nuevo, it's a different word with a totally different meaning. So we can't say close enough because it's a different word. Nuevo, with an O at the end, nuevo means new, as in brand new. Okay? New, as in the opposite of old. So if you pronounce this nueve, smile at the end, nueve word as nuevo, and you're talking about like a number, you'll confuse the living bejesus out of them. They don't know what the, nuevo means something else. Yeah, nuevo means brand new. So, nueve, smile at the end. Nueve. Bien. Here comes our next one in that building block of 0 through 10. And by the way, she didn't give the number 0. She will later in the video. Cero is 0. Cero. Like 0, but cero. Okay? So after nueve, we're going to have our next in that building block of 1 through 10. Here comes the 10 word. Diez. And notice that the Z at the end is not diez. No. It is diez. An
Yes.
S at the end,
Yes.
yeah. Zeta, the Z, makes an S sound. 10.
Yes.
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 You're going to hear in the next sequence what comes after 10 becomes, in many cases, not 100%, but in many cases, we use those 1 through 10s as building blocks in higher numbers. And you're going to notice with some of the teen group of words, yeah? Some of them incorporate, not all, but some of them incorporate the word 10, into the teen numbers, the later ones. You'll see what she means. And when that happens, you're going to notice that it sounds like 10 with things added on, and it is. But you'll notice when it's spelled out in writing, that word 10 will change its spelling from D-I-E-Z to D-I-E-C. Because that C will sound exactly like the Z. It'll sound like s, 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 like that. Okay? So no, visually, because many of us are visual learners, when you see a word like 16, you're going to see the S used as a stepping stone to get to the 16 number. It will be spelled differently. That Z morphs or changes into a C, but the sound does not change because C sounds the same as Z with the word for and, E. Okay, so no, it will get a spelling change in the higher up number group. You'll see what it is.
10,
Yes.
Yes.
11,
Here comes
Once.
11. Once.
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 It looks like once. It's not once. Once.
Once.
Once. Once.
11,
Once.
12,
Oh, doce sounds like
Doce.
dos, but it gets an extra sound at the end. Doce.
Doce.
Doce. Doce. 12. Doce. 12.
12, 13,
Trece.
Trece. It sounds like tres, but it gets an e tacked onto the end. Trece. Trece.
Trece.
Trece. Trece. 13.
13.
Trece.
Fun fact, 13 is the number of dogs I have. I know a dog lover, right? 14.
14.
Catorce.
14. It doesn't sound very much like cuatro, does it? But it's got some of the same letters as cuatro, but yeah. But the vowels combine in a different way. 14. 14. 14.
14.
14.
14.
14. 14.
14.
14.
15.
15.
15.
15. QUI. This is one of this little exceptions where the oo letter does not make the oo sound, okay? QUI. 15. 15.
15.
Think that's really keen. Okay, 15. This quince thing is a Latin thing. QUI always had a 5 thing, so this is the 1 and the 5 together. Yeah, 15. Quince. Quince.
15.
15. Bien,
Quince.
bien. 15. Now,
Quince.
after quince, we're going to start combining 10 and. Okay, so here's something to know. The word and in Spanish is the sound E. E, which by itself is usually spelled as the letter Y, but it's pronounced as E. E means and. So 16, 17, 18, 19 becomes 10 and 6, 10 and 7, 10 and 8, 10 and 9. And instead of having just the E, the E is going to connect the 10 and. So the spelling is going to look a little funny, but the sound will have the E in between the two numbers.
15, 16,
16,
16,
16.
Dieciséis.
That's a lot of vowels and they're combined in different ways. So we get the dies and notice the Z changed to a C, dies, and then we have the E
Yes.
sound. E means and. Dieci, 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 10 and, 10 and. Dieci, and then we tack on the seis. Okay, there's our base 1 through 10 words. Seis. Dies, I-E, E-E, and then at the end, A-E. Dies, E, seis. Dieciséis.
16,
Dieciséis.
16,
When somebody says it fast, because they will. Dieciséis, dieciséis, dieciséis.
Yes.
Dieciséis.
16,
16,
17,
17,
17. Here's
Diecisiete.
diez, but the Z changes into a C, and then we have the and word E in the middle. It joins the two numbers. 17.
17,
17. 17. 17. 10 and 7. Literally, it is 10 and 7. 17.
17, 18,
18. 18. 10 and 8. 18.
18,
Here comes 19.
19,
19. Smile at the end of 9.
9,
19.
19,
19. 10 and 9. 10 and 9. And that is going to end our next chunk. The first chunk is 0 through 10. The next chunk is 11 through 19. And then we're going to start a new chunk. Okay? Okay? So be prepared. 19.
19, 19, 20.
20. And remember, this B chica, the small V, sounds like a B, but it's softer. Not 20, but 20. 20. You have veins in your arm. So think veins in your arm. 20. 20. When we go to 21, 22, 23, we're going to need that E, and word. With 20 and 1, what they're going to do is 20. Instead of just taking 20 and 1, we're going to take 20 and we're going to cut off the E at the end, that letter E or letter A. We're going to cut off that E at the end and we're going to plug in that E, and word. So the last letter E at the end of 20, that E is going to drop and we're going to plug in the and word, E. Okay, so it'll be 20. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. So we cut off the E from the end of 20 and we just plug that E in right away. 21, 22, 23, okay? With the higher up numbers past 20, this is why they take 20 as the next chunk. Okay? When you go past 20 into the 30, 40, 50, 60, that literally the word E and spelled with a letter Y comes back. Okay. Bien. And you'll see how that works.
20.
Sure.
20.
¿Vamos bien?
Bien.
Are we going good? This is the literal translation. Vamos bien is a chunk in Spanish. That means like,
Oh, notice vamos bien, because we're gonna review a verb you had last week. Voy in the little storytelling. See, vamos bien. Are we doing well? Are we going well? How's it go? Ah, we're doing okay. Yeah.
are we doing well? So, I don't know if you noticed, but from 16 to 19, so from 16 to 19, we're just adding number 10, the word and then the number that we want to say. For example, 16.
And there she breaks it down so that you can see. It's diez with a Z, but the Z in spelling changes to a C. It makes the same sound. Okay. 16.
17,
7.
18,
Ocho.
and 19. So, to be honest, if you learn from zero to 15, those are the numbers that do not have a pattern. After 16, you will see that there is a pattern. So we will learn 10 by 10 now, from 30 to 90.
And here we're going to learn tens by 10. We're going to learn the next chunk of 10, the next chunk of 10. And you're going to get a list of all these. So don't furiously copy them down. You're going to get a written list in the email after class.
Because in between this formula I just gave you, it will apply for all the numbers. That makes sense, right? Vamos a continuar. Let's continue. 30.
Here's our 30. 30.
30.
30. 30. 30. We will not cut off the A at the end if we want to say 31, 32. We're going to have to add literally the word and. Y. 30 y. 30 y. 30 y. Uno. 30 y.
Dos.
2. 30 y.
Tres.
3. 30 y. 4. 30 y. 5. 30 y. 6. 30 y. 7. 30 y.
8.
8. 30 y. 9. And then we'll move on to the next chunk. So, okay, see? 30. The key with numbers, the key skill to take away is that when somebody says a number, the digit pops into your head. The spelling you see on the screen is just so you can pronounce it phonetically, because you learned phonetics last week. But nobody writes out numbers as words. They write down numbers as digits, just like we do, because it's faster. All right. But you see that on the screen so that you know how to pronounce it. The key skill to take away is recognizing as a digit what that number is when somebody says it to you. You are less likely as a traveler, first time, needing to speak numbers. You are very likely to have to be able to listen to and understand numbers, to understand your flight number, the number of the gate you need to go to in the airport, how much a ticket costs, your seat number, stuff like that, okay? Being able to understand the numbers for you, where you are now, is a bigger deal, a more useful skill than being able to pronounce and say every number, even though we're learning that now. Okay? Bien? So, we got our next chunk. 30.
40.
Here's our next chunk of work. 40. That starts out. 40. 14. You're going to notice that the enta is like our T 4T, 5T, 6T, 7T, 8T, 9T. That T is that enta at the end, the equivalent to it. Yeah? Enta. 40. It looks like cuatro. Ew. It's missing the T from cuatro, isn't it? Yeah, it's missing the T from the word cuatro, but it's close to cuatro. 40. 40. And when I add numbers to it, I have to add the 1 through 9 numbers to it. So we're repeating the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right? We're just adding it on, and we're joining them with the word y. Y meaning and. 41, 42, 43. Bien? Okay, so there's our next chunk. 40. 40.
40.
Bien. Okay.
40,
40.
50,
50.
Ah, 50. This looks a lot like 5. Yeah? We don't say 5T in English, we say 50. Oh, we make changes too. Of course, everybody does. All right? It looks a lot like the 5, but we've got that enta thing there. 50. 50. 50.
50,
Here's the 60 words. 60.
60.
60. It's a lot like 6, 6, except we take the E, the letter I, out of 6, and we slap on the enta. 60. 60.
60.
It gets 2 S's. 60. It's like 6 has 2 S's. 60. 60. 60. 60. Bien.
60, 60, 70,
Here's our 70 word. 70.
70,
70. It looks and sounds a lot like siete. Siete. Right? Again, like we took the I, the letter I, with the dot out of 6 to get to 60. We take the I, the letter with the dot on the top, the letter I out of siete. We take out the I, and it becomes 70. 70. Notice, not 60, 2 S's. 60. No. 70. 70. S and T. 60 is exactly the same as 70, except for one letter. 60, the S in the middle comes out. The S in the middle comes out, and we plug in, instead of the S in the middle, a T. 70. 70. 70. Only one letter different, but a totally different number. 10 more. It's more expensive if this is the price. 70. 70. Okay.
80,
80.
80.
80. Oh, sounds a lot like ocho. 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 Right? Ocho. We get the O off the end, and we put that enta, T-Y, yeah, A-T, 80. 80.
80.
90,
90.
90.
90. 90. 90. Nueve had an nueve. That changes into a shorter, easier to say O sound. But it keeps the N, it keeps the V. Nueve becomes nobe. 90.
90.
90.
90.
90. 90. See? 90. 90. 90. 90.
90, and at last we have 100. 100.
100. 100. 100. 100. Cien is
Cien.
100 and it has to be 100 even. 1, 0, 0, exactly. Cien.
Yeah.
Cien.
Yeah.
If I combine 100 with any other number, and she doesn't say this in the video, but I'm telling it to you, and you're going to see it on paper later on. If I say 101, 110, 160, 180, 100 plus anything, we add a to on the end of it. It becomes a slightly longer 100 word. So cien might really become ciento. Ciento with
Yeah.
a to at the end. Yeah. When I add something bigger than 100, 200, it has to become ciento. Okay? Vale.
That comes from the English centenary or the word percent, meaning from the Latin
Percent, century. Century is 100 words, 100 years. A century is 100 years. Yeah, our word century comes from that, or percent comes from that.
centum. So that means 100. So the last one will be cien. However, let's go back a little bit. As we said, you know the formula I gave you, the numbers in tens, then the word an, that in Spanish is y, and then the number you want to say. Well, this applies from 20 to 90. We say from 20 al 90. We literally apply the number in tens, so 20.
And she shows you how 20, the E came out and the letter I came in, 21, right? There's our E for the and word. The and word is the sound E. E, used in a sentence is and.
Uno. 30.
But there it's spelled with a Y, but it's the same sound. Yeah, it's just spelled differently. 32, 30. We don't cut anything off of 30. Yeah, 32, 32. Yeah. When people say numbers to you to give you prices, they will typically speak quickly. And that 32 sounds all slurred together. So it will sound more like 32. Okay? 32. But 32. If they're talking fast, that's how it's going to sound. 32. 32. Okay?
32, 44,
44.
55,
55. That's how it will sound. We're just adding the 1 through 9s, tagging it onto the end of the bigger number. Yeah. 55.
66, 77, etc., etc. In this case, the only one that changes a little bit is from 20 to 29 because 20 ends in E. 21.
So she's just showing you that E sound is a little bit different with the 20 sequence. Yeah, the E is spelled with the letter I, but that's just for pronunciation,
22,
right? You're never going to write numbers as anything but digits.
23,
24.
24.
25,
26, 27, 28, 29,
29, and then of course we have number 30.
30.
Muy bien. Now we have the numbers from 0 to 100, del 0 al 100. Pero ¿qué pasa después del 100? What happens
After 100?
Well, we don't say 101. We have to complement the word to say 101. So it means I have 100 of and 1. In Spanish, the translation becomes.
So here's where the to comes in. Anything over 100 has to become the longer word. Okay? Ciento. Yeah.
101.
Ciento. 101, 102, 103, 104, and so on and so forth. Okay. So again, numbers are building blocks. And when we go to higher numbers, we just add on the lower numbers that we need, right? 120 is 120. 120. 125 is 125,
28.
right?
5.
150 is 150. 150, right? 155 is 155. Okay? You're not going to know all these numbers perfectly. This is a video to get the pronunciation down pat and to hear it and get it cemented in your brain. You probably need to watch this video por lo menos at least 3 times. Probably. The 1 through 10 will come faster for you. And those are your building block numbers. Okay? Little kids learn the 1 through 10 very easily. And you will too. The higher up ones, you need a lot of input. That means you need to hear this over and over and over and over and over and over so that it gets cemented in your brain. Okay?
101, 102, 106, 107. In Spanish, we have to
And
become this word from 100 to 100 to make it accountable. Same things for 200, 300, 400. Because we're talking in plural, we must say cientos. And in this case, we
now she's going to talk a little bit about plurals of hundreds. Okay? Because if you travel to a place like Mexico, Colombia, the monetary units are different, right? So very frequently, you're going to need things in the hundreds range because prices are going to sound higher. The numbers are going to be higher, yeah, because their monetary units are different. Okay? So it's useful to know the hundreds words. And for right now today, I'm going to say, listen to this video more. I'm going to give you a different additional numbers video to listen to in addition to this as a homework thing. But do know that there's only so much your brain can take. We're going to show you what happens with the numbers, but the hundreds block is going to be kind of a lot. It is necessary to know, but give yourself time and repetition to learn it. We're just going to show you basically how the hundreds work.
the word of number before. Let's practice.
So we're going to take the 100 word, which was ciento, right? Ciento with a to at the end. We're going to add an S to the end because anything that is 200, 300, 400 is more than 100. Therefore, they are hundreds. Cientos. The plurals of 100, 100 are going to have to all have an S at the end of ciento. They become cientos. So we're going to add the numbers on the beginning of the cientos to get to the 200, 300.
Repeat after me. Repite después de mí. 200.
Here's what we do. We add 2 onto the hundreds word. 200.
200.
200. 200. 200. Literally, they say 200s. 200. But yeah, mentally, we just add the dos. Yeah, you see that baseline 1 through 10. We can combine them differently to make different kinds of numbers. 200. 200s.
200. 300. 300.
300. 300s. 300.
400. 400.
400.
400. Yeah, we
400.
borrow that cuatro word straight out of the 1 through 10. 400. 400. Okay,
400.
vale. Next is coming the break it number. The next one breaks it, and that means it breaks that pattern. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro. Wow, how nice, how easy. The next one is not going to use cinco like you think it should. It's going to use a different word.
500.
Oh, uh-oh, what
500.
happened to cinco? It went away. It went bye-bye. It's not cinco cientos. If you say cinco cientos to somebody, they'll be like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's keen. Keen. Keen, like we use for quince, the 15, that keen comes back. 500.
500.
500.
500.
500. It's keen. 500. Okay.
500.
This breaks that nice uno, dos, tres, cuatro. It breaks the mold. Okay. 500. 500.
500.
500.
Now we go back to the pattern. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro. Yay! It comes back to the seis. 600.
600.
600.
600.
600.
600.
700.
And that's almost like the siete minus the
700.
I, the letter I. 700. 700.
700.
700.
700.
700.
800.
800. Perfectly obeys that pattern. 800. 800s, literally. 800.
900.
800.
900.
900. 900. Instead of nueve, it changes that nue of nueve into no, a shorter thing to say. Nove, nove, like
Nove.
90. Nove, 900. 900. 900s. 900. 900.
And finally, we have 1,000.
Here's our word 1,000. Mil.
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 1,000.
Mil.
Yeah. If you ever used a metric system, yeah, milliliters, yeah, milligrams, yeah, that comes straight from Latin. Mil, 1,000, right? 2,000 becomes 2,000. 3,000 becomes 3,000. 4,000 becomes 4,000. Okay, so everything comes back to, if you know that 1 through 10 sequence, yeah, we, in many cases, combine either that exact 1 through 10 sequence, or we alter the number just a tiny, tiny bit to get to the next number. We combine them in different ways to make those numbers. Okay, so
Just out of curiosity, there's no S at the end of this.
no, there's no S at the end of mil. Eres muy listo. Wow, you are very smart. Yes. There's no S. Like, yeah, 2,000 is just 2,000, not 2,000s. Why did they do that? I can't tell you. I don't know. They just do. Yeah. Cientos gets to be plural, but mil doesn't. There are instances actually where mil can become 1,000. Like you can say miles de personas, thousands of people, but that's not an exact number. It's just thousands. Yeah, we don't know how many, but generally mil is just mil. 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. See, it doesn't get plural. Así es. So it is. Okay, bien. I am going to skip the next section because she goes into phone numbers, but you can watch the end of that on your own. See, bien. It will be necessary to have input. That means to hear that input from those sounds at least 3 times to start to get that cemented in your brain. But numbers are super important. So I'm going to show you the cheat sheet that you're going to get in the email for after class. Here is the cheat sheet, and I color code it because sometimes most of us being visual learners as we are, the color coding helps a lot. Bien. And we color code it. The 1 through 10 are by themselves. Ooh, this block of the teens gets one color because they kind of follow a different kind of pattern. And then the green block, the 16 through 19, follow a different kind of pattern. They actually use the 10, diez, the 10, diez word, yeah? And here's our next block, 20 block, 20, and you're going to see how all the 20 words go. And then the 30, how all, and I'll give you a few examples, right? 30, and how that block will go. 40, and how that block will go. And how you can maybe make your brain think in terms of 50, 6T, that T thing is the enta. It's a rough equivalent of their use of a different kind of prefix, enta, yeah? See, 40, 50, 60. But you see the general patterns here, see? Bien. And cien, and then how it changes into ciento. If we go anything over the even number of 100, right? Ciento, and then the plurals. So I've got them color coded. We've got the oddball in the 500, the 100 sequence, segmented off. Do you need to know millones? Probably not. Not as a traveler, unless you work in finance. You might find it useful to know the 1,000 word, mil, depending on what you're buying. But yeah, above that, for now, you don't need to know that. So these are the must-know numbers, the must-know numbers. You're going to hear some of these repeated as we move into our more heavy-duty vocabulary list. So you'll get that cheat sheet list. Okay, bien? And input, listen again to the number vocabulary to just try to cement that into your brain. Okay, vale, bien. Números, numbers. Vale, we're going to move on. We're going to move on to some keywords that will be helpful for you to know as we listen to another video. And we're going to be listening to the video to combine words in chunks. Yeah? Chunks are going to help us to learn. Here are phrases we would use in a situation. And the situation is going to be the travel process itself. The travel process itself. So here comes a new set of words, and some of these are going to become question words you're going to hear in the videos about the travel process. Question words, because people are going to ask you questions when you travel. So here are some, but not the whole list, but some question words. Here we've got our word, donde, where, donde, donde. Donde. Look at what my mouth does. Donde. I smile at the end. Donde.
One day.
¿Dónde?
Donde.
¿Dónde?
Where?
One
Donde.
day.
If you want to know where, like a building is, yeah? ¿Dónde está?
¿Dónde está?
¿Dónde
¿Dónde
está?
está? Where is it?
¿Dónde está?
¿Dónde está?
Where is it? That word está is the is it part. ¿Dónde is the where part. ¿Dónde está? ¿Dónde está?
¿Dónde está?
¿Dónde está? You might need to know words, and there are certain words that will help you that are cognates. They sound like English words you already know. But we alter the pronunciation to make them into a Spanish word. Right, like, ¿dónde está el aeropuerto? ¿Dónde está el hotel? Hotel. We don't pronounce the H in a hotel. ¿Dónde está el hotel?
Hotel.
¿Dónde está el autobús? Maybe you have to take a bus. ¿Dónde están los taxis? Where are the
Taxis.
taxis?
Taxi.
¿Dónde están? We put an N on the end. ¿Dónde están los taxis? Where are the taxis? ¿Dónde están los taxis? So, ¿dónde is a where word. Where might get altered slightly depending on how you use it. Where is something is talking about something that's stationary. It's set in a place. But where with movement, like the verb voy, I'm going, we alter that where word to a dónde. A dónde. We put an a in front of it. A dónde.
Adonde.
A dónde literally means to where. You would never say to where in English. To where are you going? But that's the way they say it in Spanish. A dónde. A dónde.
Adonde.
A dónde with
Adonde.
verbs of motion. So, whereas donde está means where is something located, to ask where are you going, it's going to be a dónde vas.
Adonde
A
vas.
dónde
Adonde
vas.
Adonde
A dónde
vas.
vas. Literally,
vas.
to
Adonde
where
vas.
are you going? A dónde vas. Vas is the you're going word. You may hear vas said in the polite way as just a dónde va. A dónde va.
Adonde vas.
Ba is a polite way of addressing somebody as a polite you, meaning they don't know you by your first name. But if they're feeling more friendly to you, or they know your first name, or they're an older person and you look younger, they'll put an S on the end. That is a familiar, friendly way of saying you're going. Vas. Ba, polite you're going. Vas, friendly you're going. See? ¿A dónde vas? ¿A dónde vas? ¿A dónde va? Those are the two ways you may hear them, right? You may also hear donde combined with de. ¿De dónde? From where? ¿De dónde?
¿De
Right?
dónde?
¿De dónde? De means of or from. ¿De dónde? ¿De dónde? Here is how somebody may ask you a question. ¿De dónde es? Where are you from? Polite you. ¿De dónde es? ¿De dónde es? Here's the more friendly. Where are you from? ¿De dónde eres? ¿De dónde eres? Where are you from? And by the way, if somebody asks, ¿De dónde eres? Buddy kind of question, or ¿De dónde es? More formal question. Don't give them the city. They want to know what country you're from. ¿De dónde eres? Ah, soy de, I'm from. Soy de Estados Unidos. Soy de Estados Unidos. I'm from the United States. Soy de Estados Unidos. United States. Estados Unidos. Okay? Bien. All right. We've got our donde word and different ways it may combine in a question. And now we want to have something that will connect to our number words. ¿Cuánto? ¿Cuánto?
¿Cuánto?
Think of quantity. Yeah, our quantity
Mm.
word comes from the same thing as this word cuánto. Cuánto is how much.
¿Cuánto?
If we slap an S on the end of it, cuántos means how many. You're looking at an amount rather than a price, like a collection, how many things. Okay? ¿Cuánto? How much? ¿Cuántos? How many? Okay. And you have this question word because you will hear it come up from time to again. This is kind of a repeat. ¿Cómo? ¿Cómo is how, right? ¿Cómo estás? How are you feeling? Actually, I forgot to type that in. How are you? Meaning, you know, that generic kind of, how do you feel? Kind of question. ¿Sí? Bien. Vale. ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás is the friendly way of asking how are you if they know you by your first name or if you're younger in age. Here's the formal how are you? ¿Cómo está? We get rid of the S at the end. ¿Cómo está? Yeah. ¿Cómo está is the exact same question as ¿Cómo estás? It's just that ¿Cómo está is a more formal you. ¿Cómo estás is a more friendly, more buddy kind of you. They have more than one you in Spanish. So, okay. ¿Dónde?
¿Dónde?
¿Cuánto?
¿Cuánto?
¿Cómo?
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 Bien. Okay. Vale. Siguiente. Here are some other action words you're going to hear in the videos in different ways. Action words are verbs. Verbs are going to have way more forms in Spanish than they do in English. In English, you say, I go. You also go. We also go. But she goes. Yeah. In Spanish, you're going to have more forms for saying go. And the form of the word go depends on who's doing it. It'll either be I'm going or I'm with other people. We are going or you are going or one person is going or a bunch of people are going. So here are the ones that are going to be most pertinent for you today. Ir, ir,
Ir.
ir is the base
Ir.
form of that verb.
Ir.
Ir, to go.
Ir.
But it doesn't sound like ir when we actually use it with a human being to tell who's going. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't sound like ir anymore. That means it's a very irregular verb. But this is used a lot for transport and going places. So this is why this is a verb we need to know. And you heard this a little bit last week, but here it goes. Voy,
Voy.
voy,
Voy.
Voy.
I'm going. Voy.
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 That word all by itself means I'm going. Voy.
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 They do have a word for I. The word for I is,
Yo.
I'll type it in here, yo. But practically speaking, people don't use the word yo all the time in Spanish because this word all by itself, this action word all by itself can only be used with the idea of this person doing the action. So they say, well, that's all I need. I don't need the word for I. I can just use this verb by itself because this is the only verb that combines with yo. It's the only possible way I can say I'm going. So most of the time, you're only going to hear this word to say I go. Voy. Voy.
Voy.
That's,
Voy.
they're going to skip the I word completely. They can use it, but they don't have to. So you know what? They don't bother most of the time. You'll only hear voy. Voy.
Voy.
I'm going. Voy.
Voy.
The way somebody will ask, are you going? They have to alter that voy. It has to take a different form. If they ask, you're going, it'll either be the polite ba, ba,
Va.
or the friendly buddy, I know you by your first name, bas. Bas, with an S at the end. Bas.
Vas.
See? So here are the forms for the video you'll need to know. Voy. I'm talking about
Voy.
myself.
Voy.
Voy. Bas.
Vas.
Bas or the polite ba. Okay? Bien. You might hear many times when people say, hey, let's get moving. Let's get the heck out of here. Let's go. Let's go becomes not voy, not ba, not bas, but vamos.
Vamos.
Vamos. Vamos. Let's go. That means I have people with me. Vamos means I'm in the group, but I'm not by myself. Vamos. Let's go. Yeah? See? Vamos. Here are some other verbs you're going to hear. Cuesta.
Está.
It comes from costar. Cuesta. It
Cuesta.
costs. You might hear I, we'll come back to that another day, but I just means there is, there are. Notice I doesn't have all these forms like voy, va, vas, vamos. It's just I. Okay, because it has nothing to do with yo. If we just talk about stuff that's out there, you'll hear the word I. Okay. You're going to hear this verb repeated a lot. Forms of estar, to be in a place. Estoy.
Estoy.
Estoy is only talking about myself. Estoy.
Estoy.
Estás,
Estás.
Estás.
right? Está for she or he or it is in a place. Yeah. And this is the we form, estamos, just so you know. Okay. See? And you may hear this verb used a lot, ser. This is, estar talks about location or how you feel, como estás, donde estás, where are you? But to talk about who you are, identifying yourself, it's not, it's a different verb. It's ser, to be. And the forms of that are going to be soy, soy. The friendly you are, eres, eres, right? Es, to talk about one person or the formal you, es. Es, he is or she is or it is or you are, the friend or the formal, more polite you. And then the plural, son. You're going to hear son a little bit here. See, son, son, there. Okay? Vale, bien. All right. You're going to get that chunk of words. Let's listen to one of the videos. We're going to listen to one chunk of videos that's going to talk about getting in a cab. And this is actually leaving the airport, but it could very well be going to an airport again. Bien?
Bien.
Let's take a look at this. You're going to hear now how they're combining these in chunks. That means groups of words together to ask about information about transporte, transportation.
In this Everyday Conversations video, you'll see me catch a cab at the bus station and then purchase a bus ticket. I'll talk you through the dialogue and break down some of the phrases and vocabulary so that you'll know what to say when you're traveling.
So the words in
Listen to
my
how the
file will
conversation
support
starts.
this. Okay?
¿A dónde vas?
Voy a la estación de autobuses.
Oh, let me hang on. Let me put it so you can see the subtitles. Perdón.
¿A dónde vas?
Voy a la estación de autobuses. ¿Cuánto cuesta?
Ah, I'm going to. Bus station is estación de autobuses. Voy a, and then we name a place. Voy a. Voy a with a place. It could be voy a with the name of a city. Voy a Oaxaca. Voy a Acapulco. Voy a Cancún. It could be a building. Voy al hotel. Hotel. Voy al hotel. Voy a. I'm going to. And then he names. Here, it's bus station. Estación de autobuses. But then he's going to ask how much it costs. And you're going to hear the cuánto. And you're going to hear the cuánto cuesta. ¿Cuánto cuesta? How much does it cost?
Unos 150 pesos.
¿Te parece bien?
Ah, unos 150 pesos. Unos means some. It's like saying about. About 150. Meaning, could be 153, could be 155, depends on how his meter runs, right? Unos 150 pesos. Parece bien, seems good.
After I flagged on the taxi, the driver asks
And
me,
he's going to break this
¿A
down
dónde
later.
vas? That is, where are you going? I respond that
¿A dónde vas? And here he kept it a separate word. Sometimes it gets squished together as one word. That's not a big deal. What you're going to hear is ¿A dónde vas? Where are you going? And that's the friendly where you're going. He could, as a taxi driver, choose to use the polite you. ¿A dónde va? Without the S at the end. Okay?
I'm going to the bus station by saying, voy a la estación de autobuses. Now that he knows my destination though, I want to check the price. So I ask, how much does that cost? ¿Cuánto cuesta?
¿Cuánto cuesta? How much does it cost?
He replies with unos 150 pesos, or about 150 pesos. That's a fair price, and better than walking 3 miles to the bus station with my bag. So I say that sounds good to me. Okay, me parece bien.
And me parece bien seems good to me. You could also respond and convey the same idea. Está bien. It's okay. Está bien. Está bien. It's okay. Carries the same meaning as me parece bien. There are two different ways to group the words, but they mean the same idea, meaning you're giving him the thumbs up. Yeah. So, me parece bien, literally, to me, it seems pretty good. You could make it a shorter phrase, está bien, it's okay. Okay, vale.
Déjame ayudarte con tu maleta.
Gracias.
De nada.
Oh, there's a de nada, there's a you're welcome. He's going to break this down later.
¿Estás listo para irnos?
Sí, vamos.
¿Estás listo? Are you ready? ¿Estás listo? ¿Estás lista? ¿Estás listo para irnos? Are you ready for us to take off? ¿Sí?
Adelante, por favor.
Vamos, let's go.
The driver
Adelante,
offers to put
forward.
my bag in the trunk.
Déjame ayudarte con tu maleta.
And of course,
Déjame. Déjame means just let me. Déjame. Déjame. Déjame ayudarte. Let me help you. Déjame ayudarte con tu maleta. Tu maleta is your suitcase. Tu maleta. Tu maleta. Déjame ayudarte. Let me help you. Déjame ayudarte. ¿Sí? Con tu maleta, with your suitcase.
I thank him with gracias.
And of course, we always thank people with gracias.
Next, the driver asks me if I'm ready to go. ¿Estás listo para irnos? And I reply, yes, let's go. Or in Spanish, sí, vamos.
Vamos.
¿Estás cómodo?
Hay poco espacio aquí detrás.
Déjame adelantar.
Oh, here you hear an hay poco espacio. There's just a little bit of space. That hay is a there is expression. There is. You won't need to know all these phrases. You know, the cuánto cuesta is important. ¿A dónde vas is important. So we're going to let some of those go because he'll break it down for you
Levantar mi
later.
asiento.
Gracias.
De nada.
Here, the driver asks an important question. Are you comfortable? In Spanish, that's ¿Estás cómodo? Most
But there is that action word, estás, are you? Are you in a state where you're comfy? Yeah? Estás cómodo.
Mostly, I'm okay. But there's not a lot of room for my legs, so I say, hay poco espacio aquí detrás. That means it's a little cramped in here. The driver
And really, it's a little, hay poco espacio. There is very little space in the back. Yeah. You're not likely to need that phrase, but just kind of be a sponge. Take
agrees
that
to
in
move
for
the
now.
front seat up for me, saying, déjame adelantar mi asiento.
He's moving
I
the
thank
seat up. That's all.
Let's get back to the conversation.
¿Has estado aquí antes?
Es mi primera visita.
Oh, bienvenido a Oaxaca.
Gracias. The taxi driver asks me a question that you'll likely hear as a visitor. ¿Has estado aquí antes?
Has estado, have you been here before? Has estado, have you been? Has estado, have you been? Aquí means here. Aquí.
Which just means, have you been here before? I explain that it's my first visit by saying, es mi primera visita. He welcomes me to Oaxaca. Bienvenido a Oaxaca.
Hay mucho tráfico.
¿Cuánto tiempo tardamos?
Unos 10 minutos.
Está bien. You might also have a conversation similar to this one when you're riding in a cab. The driver says, hay mucho tráfico, meaning
Here's a I word. I just talks about existence. Tráfico is a cognate, sounds like traffic, it means traffic. Hay mucho tráfico. There's a lot of traffic. Yeah. There is a lot has nothing to do with yo, so there is no yo form. Yeah, it's just hay, there is. Hay mucho tráfico.
there's a lot of traffic. I want to know how much longer the trip will take now, so I ask, ¿cuánto tiempo tardamos?
¿Cuánto tiempo tardamos? How long will we take? The tardamos is will we take to do something, yeah? ¿Cuánto tiempo? How much time? ¿Cuánto tiempo? ¿Cuánto tiempo? ¿Cuánto tiempo tardamos? How long will we take? And here comes a number.
The driver responds, unos 10 minutos, saying it'll be another 10 minutes. It's not a problem at all, so I say, está bien, it's good. Or more colloquially, no problem, está bien.
Está bien is it's okay, yeah?
¿Dónde te dejo?
Enfrente de la estación de autobuses.
Son 150 pesos.
Aquí
There's a son. He's telling him how much the charge is. Son 150. Son 150. Son 150 pesos. Son 150. It's like saying that'll be. And then they give you a number. Son 150.
tienes.
Que disfrute su viaje.
Gracias. We finally made it, so the driver has one last question for me. ¿Dónde te dejo? He's wondering where he should drop me off.
Yeah, donde te dejo means where do you, I leave off. Dejo is I drop you. I leave you, yeah? Where's the drop off? Okay? But where do I leave you? That te word means he's indicating you. Where do I drop you off? Look, the word where do I drop you off becomes donde te dejo. Donde te dejo. Where do you, I leave off. The dejo means I leave off. Okay.
I want to be dropped off in front of the bus station, so I say, enfrente de la estación de autobuses.
Enfrente de la estación de autobuses. Enfrente, enfrente, in front. Oh, that's kind of close to the English, right? Enfrente. Enfrente de, in front of. There, the de means of. See?
After he drops me off, he grabs my bag from the trunk and says, son 150 pesos. I owe him 150 pesos. Tipping isn't necessary for taxis in Mexico, but he was very polite and helped me with my bag, so I've included another 10 pesos as a small tip.
And that's an important thing to know, leaving a tip for anybody who gives you a service like that. Even in grocery stores, people tip the baggers. It's an important thing to know. Okay, I'm going to let you watch the rest of that video on your own. We're going to take a look at another quick video about directions. Yeah. And I'm going to leave you yet a third video, which we won't get time for today, but it'll be an airport vocabulary video. Okay. And your assignment is going to be that you're going to see some like boarding passes and things like that. And you're going to come and use some of your numbers next week with me one-on-one. after you watch the airline video. But we're going to watch this part because you don't need to watch the whole video. This is about asking for directions. And I recommend you do not watch the whole video here because the whole video is him talking about how he's going to pick up a bunch of chicks. He's cruising for a date. Do you really care? He's a nice young man. You don't care that he's looking to pick up a date. No, but you do want to know how to ask for directions. Okay, so this is a simple video, and I'm going to tell you exactly what minute marker to listen to.
Travel Spanish course.
You have to use very few chunks of words to ask for directions. So he's going to show you with just a few words how to ask for directions. And we're going to watch this part of it together, and I'll tell you where to watch in the video.
The questions are made of just 7 words. But get this, it's also the most effective, the most foolproof. That's a good combo. Let's just get to it. Question number 1 is, ¿Dónde está? Then say...
Here is a question number 1. ¿Dónde está? ¿Dónde está? Where is? And then you name the place. ¿Dónde está? ¿Dónde está el Hotel Hilton? Where's the Hilton Hotel? For example, yeah?
Say where you want to go. ¿Dónde está? Means where is. You can say an address, the name of a landmark. You can even just point to something on the map. If you wanted to go to McDonald's, you'd ask, ¿Dónde está McDonald's?
And don't go to McDonald's. Eat the local food, please. You know, yeah. When I took teenagers on tour, where there's a KFC. No, don't do that. But okay, you get the idea. Oh, he's going to talk about a museum here. La Reina Sofia is the name of a museum. It's the Queen Sofia Museum.
If you wanted to go to the museum in Madrid called La Reina Sofia, you'd ask, ¿Dónde está la Reina Sofia? Discúlpame, señor. ¿Dónde está la Reina Sofia?
Eso está en Atocha.
I said, discúlpame, señor, which means excuse.
And that's always a good way to start with asking for directions. You start with the excuse me word because it is polite. Yeah, so we start with disculpa or discúlpame, excuse me.
Me, sir, before asking, ¿Dónde está la Reina Sofia? Where is the Reina
And actually, his pronunciation is not great there. It's reina, reina, la reina. But his framing of the question is really good.
Sofia? He then said a bunch of gibberish, but more importantly, did you see him point? Discúlpame, señor. ¿Dónde está la Reina Sofia?
Eso está en Atocha.
They
Point. Not even a word. This is a thing. And I swear to you, this is exactly the way it happens. They always point. I kid you not.
They always do that. And when I say always, check this out.
Hola, por favor. ¿Dónde está el supermercado Mercadona?
They always point. ¿Dónde está? Where is it? They always point.
Hola, por favor. ¿Dónde está el metro? El metro?
¿Dónde está el metro? Metro, subway. Yeah. First time he asked supermercado, supermarket. Now he's asking for the metro, subway.
Para allí va.
They point.
Hola, por favor. ¿Dónde está el supermercado Mercadona?
¿El Mercadona?
Sí. They always
Señor,
point.
discúlpame. ¿Dónde está la parada de metro Ópera?
Ópera, mira, toma.
Hola. ¿Dónde están los correos?
¿Correos?
Sí.
Tienes que seguir.
Correos means post office.
Hola, por favor. ¿Dónde está el metro?
El metro para...
I'm telling you, they always point. Okay, you just
That is true.
asked ¿Dónde está? Wherever. If they're still talking and you don't understand, you probably won't. Basically, cut them off as politely as possible, point in the same direction they just pointed, and ask question number 2, ¿Esa dirección? That direction?
Esa dirección, that direction. So cut them off politely, yeah. Esa dirección, that direction, and point again.
As long as you point in the same direction they point, they'll say sí every time.
Está en Atocha.
¿Esa dirección?
Sí.
Don't worry about the whole pointing thing too much. It all happens instinctively, both theirs and yours. Just focus on the 3 questions or 7 words and you'll be fine. After they say sí, you ask question number 3, ¿Cuántos minutos andando? How many minutes?
¿Cuántos minutos andando? It could be cuántos minutos caminando. You can even cut off this last word and just ask cuántos minutos, how many minutes? Because most people in a lot of these places do walk in the downtown areas. Cuántos minutos is how many minutes. There's your cuántos word.
Minutes walking.
Sí.
¿Cuántos minutos andando?
Media hora.
Media hora.
30 minutos.
The answer to this question obviously
30 minutos, 30 minutes. 30 minutes, 30 minutos. 30 minutos, 30 minutes.
will be a number of some kind. In this example, he first said media hora, which is half hour, then clarified 30 minutos, or 30 minutes.
Discúlpame, señor. ¿Dónde está la reina Sofía?
Eso está en Atocha.
¿Esa dirección?
Sí.
¿Cuántos minutos andando?
Media hora.
Media hora.
30 minutos.
I know this is very simplistic, and in my travel Spanish course, I show you how you can take it further and get more specific, but these 3 simple questions really will get you anywhere you need to go. You just walk in the direction they tell you to walk for as long as they tell you to walk. If their answer was 5 minutes, you're probably good just walking 5 minutes in that direction, but if the answer was 30 minutes, you should probably ask again in 5 or 10 minutes just to make sure. Keep doing that until you close in on your destination. Let's go to another quick example of these 3 questions in action. In this one, I'm in Madrid looking for the metro stop Opera or La Parada de Metro Opera.
Señor, discúlpame. ¿Dónde está la parada de Metro Opera?
I notice he kind of squints because his pronunciation is not super great. He's kind of like, he's working hard to understand him, but, you know, he gets the main idea.
Ópera, mira, topa abajo.
¿Esa dirección?
Sí, sí.
¿Cuántos minutos andando?
4 o 5 minutos.
4 o 5, ok.
Sí, pero lo ves, hay una plaza muy grande y ahí está ópera.
Gracias.
That's a textbook example of the 3 questions in action. Just ignore whatever they say that you don't understand and look for the sí, no, or a number. In this case, after I asked cuántos minutos andando or how many minutes walking, he quickly replied cuatro cinco, which is 4 or 5.
¿Dónde está la parada de Metro Opera?
Ópera, mira, topa abajo.
¿Esa dirección?
Sí, sí.
¿Cuántos minutos andando?
4 o 5 minutos.
4 o 5, ok.
Sí, pero lo ves, hay una plaza muy grande y ahí está ópera.
Gracias.
Now, these 3 questions, they don't just work in the streets, they work anywhere you'd ask, where is something? Like, where is the bathroom? ¿Dónde está el baño?
¿Dónde está el baño?
Remember, what they say doesn't really matter for question number 1. Just look where they point. In that simple example, there was no need for question 2 or 3. And really, you can even skip the donde está part and just say where you want to go with a question tone to it, like el baño.
¿El baño?
Aquí a la derecha.
This is actually a really good example of getting by with just the caveman version of question number 1. If you're in the
Caveman version, there you go. Now, I'm going to show you exactly because if you really want to know how he picked up a couple of good-looking girls, go ahead and listen to the rest of it. I don't care. But hey, it's too much information for me. But I'll show you to watch. Sometimes, as a traveler, when we can't remember, when we are new to all those combinations of words, you want to know what's the down and dirty way to ask for information. And what he says about people pointing, the honest to goodness truth, that is the way people help you out. Absolutely. So, okay, vale. We're up to our 11 o'clock hour. I'm going to have you rewatch just that segment of the asking directions. Rewatch that transporte. You're going to get a new video that's going to talk about travel airline vocabulary. Okay. You're going to get my set of vocabulary to go with that. When we come back in that vocabulary file, I will send you in the email, you're going to have some pictures at the end that will have like pictures of screens at the airport, pictures of a boarding pass. And when we come into class next week, we're going to take a look at those and see how we combine some of those with numbers to talk about finding flight numbers, finding information on your boarding pass in an airport, and talk about some of that airport vocabulary. Okay? Bien?
Bien.
Bien.
Vale? Vale? Bien? Okay. But you're listening for those chunks of words and you're re-listening and trying to get enough input and repetition on the numbers words so that you can understand how we use those numbers when we talk about travel in terms of flight numbers, in terms of prices, in terms of how many minutes you got to walk when you're asking for directions, all that kind of stuff. ¿Sí? ¿Todo bien? All good?
Sí.
Todo bien.
Está bien.
Fantástico. And I'll probably give you a few pages out of the book to reread to reinforce that for those of you who are visual learners who need to take a look at like stuff about the numbers again or stuff about the, reporting the verb ir, the different forms of ir, going, and all of that. Okay, bien?
Bien.
Bien.
Bueno, sí. Entonces, sí, nos vemos, we'll see each other, nos vemos, see you later. Nos vemos el martes, we'll see you on Tuesday. Nos vemos el martes, ¿sí?
Nos vemos
Sí.
el martes. Sí, sí.
Bien, fantástico. Bueno.